Good afternoon. We are live on Facebook. It's Wellness Wednesday.
Wellness
Hello,
Wednesday.
hello, hello. Hi, Becky. How are you? It's so good to have you join us here. For those of you
Hello.
on the Facebook side of the house, we are excited. It's Wellness Wednesday. It's February. It's the love month, I call it. This is the love month, and really, I didn't call it. One of my virtual assistants, Rose, she called it the love month, and I love that because really every month should be the love month. But it is just such a great opportunity. This is the year of the double at Georgia Christian Business Network. You know, as we put back in business, I believe we just have a renewed, refined opportunity to just really understand clearly what God meant by putting him back in business and what that really means. And with this being the year of the double, I think that the way this is going is a great opportunity for anyone that has any doubt about whether or not God wanted to use them or whether or not God will ever bring to full fruition this vision that they had, or even if they don't even have a vision, they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing right about now. I believe that this year, God is going to reveal some wonderful things about what he is doing for those that believe in him. And so, as I say that, this is the year of the double. We're declaring and decreeing that. Our Wellness Wednesday platform is so urgent and important this year for helping you to be able to harness all that God has for you. And Pamela and I have talked about this, and I think, that I just see such a fresh anointing on you. And I'm going to allow her to introduce herself as we always do. But the value that people can experience through Wellness Wednesday is not talked about enough. And I want to make sure that we bring that awareness here, because we talk about Take Charge Tuesday, Business Power Call, and we have these dynamic. Krista Parker was amazing yesterday. If you missed her, Becky, you can hear it. God Golfing Girls. She's coming. She's in Florida, in Orlando. She's already committed to be one of our keynotes as well. But the thing that once you get into that business acumen and you go, oh, wow, if God did it for Crystal, he can do it for me. But then the next opportunity is that, how do I sustain that? Because, emotionally, mentally, so many things, not knowing how to do and when to do it. And that's the great benefit. That's the great opportunity for us to participate in this Wellness Wednesday platform. Okay. So at this point, Pamela, introduce yourself in your way. Let them know who you are, what you do, and why it's important that they should know it. Okay.
Hi, I'm Pamela Bridgeman Bartell. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I also hold credentials as a certified master addictions counselor and as a certified clinical trauma professional. I own a business here in Northwest Georgia, Cartersville specifically, called Healing Journey Counseling and Consultation, in which I focus on mood disorders, working with individuals and families. I am particularly focused on working with trauma, specifically veterans, combat veterans, and their families. I have been providing compassionate care since 1976, either as a social worker or as a Christian ministry. I am a United States Air Force veteran and an ordained minister. I am also a corporate sponsor for Georgia Christian Business Network, and I want to invite you to do that as well. GCBN is certainly worth you becoming a part of. There is so much benefit in terms of the people that you get to interact with, the people you get to just pour into your lives and into whose lives you get to pour into. And so become a corporate sponsor of Georgia Christian Business. Beth is not back from heating up her coffee, so let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. We're looking at love in the year of the double. Beth has been talking about the year of the double, and she's given an acronym for the word double. And one of the acronyms is the L, which is limitlessly loving. And so in the year of the double, we are to be limitlessly loving. And so today's presentation is going to focus very specifically on what love is. Interestingly, people are often wondering, so what in the world has Wellness Wednesday got to do with business? Well, as Beth said in her introduction, it is important for us to be emotionally stable and mentally healthy in order to thrive in our businesses, because if we're not, we are not able to thrive, and it affects our relationships. And in today's presentation, we're going to talk about ways in which not walking in love in your business affects relationships. One of the things that I'm working on currently is a training for social workers, clinical social workers, and it's called Love Essentially. And in it, I posit that as clinical social workers, our interventions should be based on love. In fact, our whole profession was founded on the notion of love. Social workers were our two core values, our empathy, or two of our core values are empathy and compassion, which are key elements of love. And so my profession as a clinical social worker, I'm called to love, not just as a Christian, but also as a clinical social worker. I'm called to love. And so I believe that my most effective interventions, and when you survey a lot of social workers, whether or not, most social workers, whether or not they're Christians, they will tell you that they believe that love is essential to their practice as a clinical social worker. So this is a very important topic for me today.
It is totally important and powerful for me as well. God is love. And I love it when we get into some of your notes today, because I have a story about that same song that you referenced that negates the importance of love. But the one opportunity that I'll say, just following behind you, is people don't understand. I didn't understand the urgency and the importance of embracing a love walk. One of the things that is so essential for us as Christians is to understand that that is one of the greatest opportunities for witnessing. Now, I've been promoting a little bit this morning and yesterday, last evening, about love can make you rich. It's a catchy phrase that, loving others can make you rich. And I mean that. I really mean that, because a lot of people talk about your net worth is your net worth. And I like that. And I believe that is some truth to that. But I also believe, more importantly, that we need to understand that our relationships can bring revenue. And that's important, to get to that net worth, you need some revenue. Okay, is the way I understand it. And so the opportunity is the importance of building healthy relationships. I love how Rose termed this month as the love month, but I'd love to see us really focus on developing a stronger love walk on a regular daily basis, 365, 24/7. you know, for sure.
So throughout the Word of God, we are called to love. And so Beth's notion that we are to love limitlessly simply is an outgrowth of the fact that we are called to love. But there are too many people who sometimes, just as the lyricist of the 1985 Grammy song says, the one that was recorded by Tina Turner, says, "What's love got to do with it?" People believe, so what's love got to do with it? And then they go on to say, just like the song says, that love is nothing but a secondhand emotion. But I'll tell you, what has love got to do with it? Love has everything to do with it. No matter what it happens to be, love has everything to be with it. And it's not a secondhand emotion. In fact, it's the first and greatest commandment. We're to love the Lord our God with all our heart. And then the second is like unto it. We're to love our neighbors as ourselves. Jesus said to the Pharisees who were trying to throw him off of his game, that on these two commandments alone hang both the Old and New Testament. There is no other commandment greater than these. In fact, the word also says, here's how they're going to know us, those of us who are Christ followers. The way that they will know that we are Christ followers is by our love. And so in the year of the double, it is important for us to be limitlessly loving. And Georgia Christian Business Network understands that Christians' business relationships are only as sound as other relationships in the individual lives. And so I'm going to end our discussion because we're talking about putting God back in business. I'm going to end it talking about business relationships, but there's some fundamental relationships we need to talk about. And the first one that we need to talk about is the family, right? So what has love got to do with it? Love makes a father respond to an infant in discomfort or distress. And it causes him to hold, and it causes a mother rather, to hold the toddler to her breast. And she gets so much delight when that child coos and giggles. She's loving the child is loving her back. If mom and dad did not display that love, we know from science that children who do not get love, infants who do not get love, have what's called failure to thrive syndrome. And they have been even known to not live from not getting the kind of touch that they need as infants, not being held as infants. In social work and other social psychology and other fields, we know that people who have a lack of attachment can become extremely violent. They are unable to develop other relationships and therefore not prosperous in business and other portions of their lives. And all of that starts with the family. And so it is important that mom and dad have to take careful note of their children and love them. I want to, and I've mentioned this before, Beth, and you know I have, because, and it's, we can use the scripture that way because it does mean this, but, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. And people think, well, that simply means, and I'm not saying it doesn't mean that we teach them the precepts of the word, because that it does mean that, but most importantly, it means train that child in the way that child should go. Take note of that child's personality. that child's disposition, that child's talents, that child's skills, and do everything within your influence to help that child embrace their strengths. And then when that same child is old, they will find quietude and peace because of a love that pushed them toward their destiny. You're muted.
Okay. It's so important that we recognize the urgency of expressing love to our children, even from conception, and I'm not trying to get political or anything, but
Not even from conception, but science has shown while in the womb as well.
right,
We encourage moms to sing to them, talk to them. And that's scientifically proven. That's not.
And I was going to go there. That's exactly what I was going to say, because a lot of people would prefer to hear the scientific part of that, the validation, rather than the spiritual side of what God said. He created us all.
Right.
I'm sorry. That's just, no, I'm not. God created us all. That's it. I'm not sorry for that. I'm thankful for that. Yeah. But the opportunity that I'm going to mention, because we hear so, and it's getting younger and younger, of young children acting out, where they're at 12 and 13. And I always measure it and go back and say, what were my children doing at 12 and 13? And it wasn't hanging out after hours at night at some, with guns and such. It just wasn't that. Oh my God, it's just imagine, and not comparing kids or saying mine were perfect or anything. All I'm saying is we're growing these kids up through with bitterness and anger, because you know what they desire is love.
It's love.
And that's what's missing that's the missing ingredient that is not happening. And they grow up, it grows up in them to, sometimes it gets to like it was at the post office yesterday. This man was in there in Lawrenceville. My husband was talking about going somewhere way off to a club or flying out of the country or something like that, and the danger you could face. I forget the conversation we were having. I said, well, you could just go right down the street to Krogan and to the post office, because honestly, I had my phone about to call 911 because it felt hostile, in the post office, and all these people standing there. And because what God spoke in my spirit as I was praying is that he just didn't get enough love. I mean, he's a full-grown adult now, but he just didn't experience love. And the postal worker was so intimidated by that. But the expressions in the outward behaviors is because people are not feeling love. And even from child, you're talking about children from being reared in environments that are not feeding love. I don't even know that that's one, because see, God is love. And we're created what? In his image. And so we're trying to get that which he created us to long for. And it's a missing, an essential missing component to being successful in business and in life. I meant to copy it, but I think I can find it where you go forward. But Lisa, my first lady at my church, had a meme yesterday. It was a quote from MLK, from Dr. King. And I'll find it. You go ahead, Pamela, because I want to share that.
So again, what has love got to do with it? What love has got to do with it is it has to be present in parents in order for their children to grow up healthy and stable. Importantly, what's love got to do with it? It makes marriages covenants. Not only do we not have marriages a lot these days, have people in partnerships and whatever. But when there is the God kind of love, when uh, you pursue love as a covenant, as a couple, the marriage becomes a covenant, not just two people who have agreed to uh, go in and get a license to live together and make sure you can get the proper tax breaks and those kinds of things. No, it becomes a covenant. And when your marriage is one that is designed the way God has called it to be designed, you'll find too that this kind of love will end up having children honor their parents. So love, what's love got to do with it? Love makes families strong and healthy. And when we have strong, healthy families, unfortunately, one of the things that is wrong with our society today in the United States and around the world is that families have become so dysfunctional, so unfocused on the person of God, on the person of Jesus Christ, that there is no respect in society. You can only, I remember, and Beth, you're close to my age, and so you probably heard it too. My mother would say to us, remember, when you go outside that door, you're representing our family. And so you behave like that. Well, it's a lot of the people, when they go outside the door, clearly they're not representing something that's healthy and loving. And so our society rather is in decline. And so love causes us to have healthy and strong families, which in turn causes us to have healthy and strong societies.
Deborah Purhin is on our Facebook. Thank you so much for joining that. And thank you for Jessica manning that post. We are really sincerely appreciate that support today from our team. The opportunity that she says is we need 18 hugs a day. And I believe that, for no reason, just hug me, just because I need to feel loved. And hugging is an expression of feeling love. And so the great opportunity for us is that the family is suffering. The children are hearing, and I found that quote that I'd like to read from Pastor Lisa's page. And it's the Dr. Martin Luther King quote that says, "Power without love is reckless and abusive. And love without power is sentimental and anemic." And love is just it's just really a great opportunity for us to experience the power of God. Because if we go back to John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave. Love is sacrificial, is what we have to, it is not predicated by how I feel or whether I want to. It is just a part of my inner being, the desire for it. And when I refrain from love, because, I love your topic, love one another. And when I withhold my love, that begins to work against me. When I release my love, it begins to work for me. And one of the scriptures, and you can push back if I'm getting ahead of the notes, but is love your enemies. When all of the gospels speak to it, but in particular Matthew, and it said, love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Pray for those that despitefully use you. And when it goes on to say these things, and I think as Matthew 5:44, it may be escaping me. It's been a minute since I've studied that particular, but the reason that I'm highlighting this right now, but I say unto you, 544 Matthew, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you. That's why it didn't sound right to me. Bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use. And can I tell you what the rest of that says? And persecute you. Listen, if you want to walk in power, do Matthew 5:44. God told me that years ago. I believe, and I no one's perfect, but I believe that what strengthens me to be able to do some things that I'm able to do is because years ago I started embracing that. Is that regardless? And then I heard Pastor Fritz, Apostle Fritz, my pastor, introduced me years ago. My first dating in here, because I write in everything, is 2013. When I learned this book, John Bevere, The Bait of Satan, is Pastor Fritz introduced to me, is that you don't have to be offended. And, you know, I refuse to be offended. I refuse. And if you practice it, and do you hear me say this now? Because you're going to be challenged if you determine this from what I'm saying, because I'm telling you, I'm challenged consistently about it. But if you practice it, you will grow and you will be strengthened. If you make a decision, I refuse to be offended, get you some good support to read The Bait of Satan, John Bevere. But the other support I want to tell you about is right here. Okay. And that's first. And you start with something like Matthew 5:44. I promise you, in my head, because we're human, I'm human, the first opportunity when someone has wronged me is the first. I refuse, Angela said. Thank you for joining us here, Angela. But Angela wrote, I refuse to be offended. I refused. I mean, even because it's not about, can you understand this for me? It's not about how you're feeling, because I'll be feeling wronged, but because it's truth that is written, because God told me, it's Jesus writing, is read, it's a commandment, I got to obey it. He didn't consult with me prior to, because my wisdom is just a little bit, nowhere near his vast. So if I'm trusting him, I've got to walk it out. God's counting on you, and we need
Walking it
you.
out, walking it out, and you walking it out is about action. And I always want to remind people that love is a verb. Love is a verb. Love is not a state of being. It's a verb. Have to do in order to express love. Love is a verb. Love also resolves conflict. It can resolve sibling conflict, and I won't go into this into detail, but when you think about Joseph and his brothers who had become so jealous of him, had, as Beth points out, they had become offended. They became offended because of the way that his father treated him. You know, he got his coat of many colors, and also his father was sending him out into the field to, you know, to basically give them instructions. And so they got offended, sold him into slavery. Of course, God showed him favor, and he rose up and to become second by putting God into his business, right? He rose up to become second only to Pharaoh, right? So Joseph walked in love, and his brothers, in their offense, mistreated him, but by not being offended, even after they had thrown him into a pit, even by not being offended when Potiphar's wife tried to assault and claim that he had raped her, by not being offended for being thrown into jail on false charges. He ended up being second only to Pharaoh. He ended up because he put God into his business.
Well, that is so awesome, Pamela. So, so awesome that you chose Joseph to talk about as our model today, because the scripture that I read in Matthew 5:44, is when they persecute you. And even one translation, one of the gospels, I think, said, and do all manner of evil against you. The opportunity is your response is love. And I remember telling someone, well, God said to love, and even I used Sarah and Abraham. I said, he called him Lord. She said she was doing my hair, her old hairdresser years ago, and she stopped doing my hair and she looked around at me and said, wonder what was wrong with her. Because he gives them foolish things of the world to confound the wise. It's because it doesn't look right in the natural. Like something must be wrong with you if you're telling somebody used you despitefully, and said you're my sister rather than my wife to protect yourself. And you still calling him Lord? She obeyed Abraham and called him Lord. And something must be wrong with you, But when you understand it from what God said, the piece that I was skipping over, and I'm so glad I turned to it, is to bless those that curse you. It's so important. You can't pray for someone and hate them. And because, listen, let's be real. Either you're loving or you hate them. And somebody said to me a long time ago, and it might have been me saying it to someone else, well, I don't hate them. I just don't like them. God didn't say anything about like.
Right.
All this liking on Facebook.
Right.
Listen, I'm supporting it or loving it. And I'm just believing that,
Right.
Because liking is not written. Love is written.
Right. So
I like what Deborah says. She has a copy of this book, and I do highly recommend that. So, Deborah, yeah, I refer back to it often. Do you have it? You have it, don't you?
You can also get the DVD.
I got one that has it, and it's a Bible study in this one.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, at the back.
So by loving, by not being offended, Joseph was able to be reconciled to his brothers. So they were reconciled, and he was able to bring everybody in, and then everybody prospered because of Joseph's decision to walk in love. So love is also a repair of the breach. A breach is when there's a violation or separation. They happen not only in family relationships, but they happen in business relationships as well. So what are behaviors and attitudes of love that are desired to be marketplace? I'm going to tell you what we want. We know them. They're found over in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. So I'm going to tell you what we want, and then I'm going to tell you ways in which they get violated. So what we want to happen in the marketplace is for individuals to be kind and patient, for them to not be jealous, boastful, or proud, for them to avoid being rude. We want individuals to avoid being selfish or quick-tempered, except that when there is some policy violation and human resources has to follow the law, we want individuals to avoid keeping records of wrong. We want them to rejoice in truth, be supportive, loyal, hopeful, and trusting. So tell me what happens. And before I tell you my thoughts that I put in my notes, I'd like for you guys to chime in. What happens when a coworker is jealous of another or is selfish in the marketplace? What happens when jealousy and selfishness enters the marketplace?
Any comments before I make a comment? Because I have a definite one. What happens, and maybe I'll just throw mine out there. I say division happens. Um, Oftentimes when the jealousy, envy, and strife, and it causes confusion. Anybody else have any comments on that? Chat them or speak up. You're free to do it. Thank you all for joining us. And I thank you for your support, Bianca, over here on Zoom. Thank you.
I point out that it hinders sometimes, especially, let's say, the person who is jealous of you is someone who is a supervisor or manager. And because of their jealousy, they may try to hinder your ability to be promoted. They may not give you the assignments that they know that you would flourish, where you would flourish because of their jealousy of you. And so jealousy and selfishness can definitely cause individuals to not progress in the marketplace, which, by the way, and those of you who are managers know that if one person in the marketplace isn't able to do their best, it prohibits everybody in your group from being able to do their very best, because everybody, the synergistic effect of everybody doing their best is what makes your business flourish.
Yeah, and I like that. Deborah commented over on the Facebook side of the house, it starts chaos. And that is definitely the case. And you just imagine productivity. It's down because nobody's doing any work. People are actually just discussing whatever the matter is and
Right.
their opinion to the matter. One of the things that I'd like to flip the coin and say, sometimes when there's jealousy, envy, and issues in the office, or even in business, even with partnerships or whatever the case may be, even in families, because Pamela started off talking about love in the family unit, there's jealousy, and they actually are admiring you. I know you're, just hear me out for a minute. Often when people are just on attack for you, is something about you, especially when they don't even know you. There's opportunities where there's that jealousy, but it's really deep down. They admire you. They have admiration for you. And instead of knowing how to communicate that, they allow it to turn into this jealous vengeance for you, and you don't even have a clue. And I'm going to say this, and hear me well, please hear me well. Sometimes people want to be you, and their idea of you. Pamela, you kind of have to help me on the clinical side here, because I know you know what I'm talking about. But what we do is we discount God's calling on our lives. And so if I walk in a room or I'm in the presence of someone and my spirit's not feeling right, and this rarely happens to me, but it used to happen to me a lot in my younger spiritual walk. And I get in the presence with somebody and their spirit just didn't rub me right. And I started thinking, well, hold up. Why are you thinking about that person? And what I would immediately do is look for an opportunity to find something favorable about that individual, that to tell myself, no, this is what I think about that person.
That's called reframing. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I had to redirect myself. And now, because I've done it for so long, even in the worst case scenarios, I'm able to look at someone and say something. And it annoys my husband sometimes, like, why are you saying that about them? And they don't even such and such because he's my protector. Okay. But, but I do. And it keeps me healthy. It keeps me holy. And Pamela, talk about reframing.
So I just want to make an excuse. I have a client, a video client I have to get on at right at 1 o'clock. So
Okay, sure.
if I feel like I'm rushing,
No, go for it. Go
that's
for
why.
it.
So no, you're absolutely right. Well, actually, when we talk about trust and commitment next week, I think we can really address what you're talking about. But it goes down to here in 1 Corinthians 13, it says love is supportive, loyal, hopeful, and trusting. And so what you are speaking to is being hopeful that regardless of how that individual is behaving in the moment, if you are able to develop a connection with them, right? And by pointing out to yourself and even complimenting them. I encourage people to compliment individuals who perhaps they are having some kind of estrangement in the marketplace, in the workplace. Compliment them on their personhood. And I know this is going to sound strange, maybe. Compliment them on their person, their character, and not their performance, because you want your relationship with to be based on not what they can do for you or for the organization, but who they are. So you might say to them, I really like your wisdom, or I really, but something character, not their performance, because you don't want them to, it's kind of like works righteousness. You don't want people to get into works righteousness, right? It has to be place. And so that's what you want to bring when you bring God back into
Right. And that build up, and Deborah, thank you for your comments and your interaction with us today. Is she's saying over on the Facebook side of the house is I believe jealousy is more about that person. They feel inadequate about themselves. And the role that Pamela is suggesting that we play is to build them up from that character standpoint. And that really makes a whole lot of sense because there's something that is missing in their lives and they're utilizing you. I call it just directed in the wrong direction. They've got some unresolved issues that are misdirected towards you. But if I respond in the same way that they're doing, it's just really, there's no opportunity for love to flow. There's no opportunity for witnessing. You don't even have to say, not proselytizing. I'm talking about witnessing through love opportunity.
How we show up in the world.
Girl.
Is our witness. How we show up in the world.
How we show up. For people we've never met, we probably would never see again, for definite. I love Bianca's comment. She says, compliment others on their character, not performance, something I will keep in mind. And that's what we want to build up and I know people say, well, are you lying? And I always go to this scripture, count those things that be not as though they were. But deep down, and Pam, help me with a clinical side, deep down, somewhere within that person, this characteristic.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so what we're doing is we calling it out. We're calling it out.
That's what we do when someone comes in and sits on my couch. The first thing that I'm going to do is look for their strengths, because I really am not able to facilitate the healing process if I don't have something upon which to build. And what I build upon are the strengths that they bring into the clinical session. And so I need to look for those character strengths. So the first thing I will say to people is, how courageous was it for you to come in here and disclose this to a stranger? The strength, courage. So I'm looking for a strength. How courageous, and I'll also tell them I'm grateful, because I am grateful that they trusted me enough. So the strength is trust. So I'm looking for their character strengths in order for them to be able to move forward to their healing process. And we do that as supervisors, as managers, as company owners. I do that with my contractors. I'm looking for their strengths, and I'm making sure that I'm always letting my contractors know that I recognize their strengths.
Wow. Wow. Pamela, this is so good. We just restructured the team, the Georgia Christian Business Network team, and we had our first meeting, and you'll be hearing more about the restructuring. I want to thank you for your coaching on air, because she helped me to see immediately that I had an opportunity for restructuring my team. And I mean, God just started pouring it out. But one of the things that I did with the team in our first team meeting on the restructured GCB and admin team is I came in with a bonus for everybody. Okay. For everybody. I just gave out a bonus just to appreciate and to value them for being on the team. And I mean, it blew them away and what they brought to the team, because, we're just getting started afresh, anew. But what I'm looking for is what I need to give. It's just like Becky's here. She's on this call with us today, and Becky's my neighbor, and she's now my friend. But first, she was my neighbor for any number of years. I can't tell exactly how many. I think it was more like 10 years that we've lived there beside each other for a lot of years, y'all. But a lot of those years we mixed time, and the Lord just laid it on my heart, because we didn't even know each other. Can you chat? You know how many years it was, Becky, that we were
before we actually met?
Yeah.
16, 15.
Don't say that. Really?
Yeah.
15 years?
Yeah.
15 years. I didn't know it was that many. But I mean, and we just love hanging with each other. We purpose to go to breakfast just to chat, talk, keep up. But the thing that I'm seeing that you miss out is because you don't even know people. And sometimes I'm going to say this, putting self, we're so busy about our days that God has sent what we need right there. And we don't even know it. I had someone on my team that builds website, and I didn't know it I haven't known it for over a year. How did I miss that? And so God said, no more. I want to know what your strengths are. And I want you to operate in those strengths. I mean, God's prepared everything you need. And it's people assigned.
Expressing love, Beth, by saying to them, I want to know your strengths. That's you expressing love to your team. That's you putting God back in business, because God is love.
Yes, Bianca. It is incredible how God puts people in our lives. He knows listen, it's a scripture, and I don't know it right now, but it came in my spirit. I can't tell you the address, but we're going to find it. God knows what you stand in need of. I know. Thank you, Jesus. Philippians 4:19, he said, I shall supply your every need according to my riches in glory. If you're doing what God's called you to do and you're walking in love, the persecution or whatever comes against you, God's got you covered. He's already got that worked out for you. All he wants you to do is to be his vessel of love.
So what's love got to do with it, because Pamela's about to get out the call,
Okay.
is that it helps us to develop, or rather, it helps strengthen relationships, beginning with our family relationships, beginning with parents, and then the family as a whole. It helps siblings to stay in love with one another, but it also helps in strengthening relationships in the marketplace, because God is love. When you walk in those First Corinthians, trust and uh, uh, just thinking the best of everyone, find that, just like Paul says, love never fails,
Love
regardless
never
of what
fails.
happens in between, like what happened with Joseph. In the long run, love never fails.
Oh, Pamela, thank you so much for your support today. We've got a couple other scriptures that I want to share. Thank you. I love my team. Jessica, I appreciate it. Dr. Jess, Matthew 6:8 says, be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knows what things you have in need of before you ask. And it's what Bianca said. He puts them in your lives at a certain time, his time, not ours. It is so amazing. And Pamela, we'll catch you next week, and I'll tell them
And
about the
next week
next one.
we're talking about trust and commitment.
Trust
See you
and
next week.
commitment. And we'll continue with you. Enjoy your coaching, your counseling. The opportunity that I want to follow up with is my personal devotion this morning. I promise you, I can't make this stuff up, and how God wants to do a new thing in your life. And relationships will equal revenue, because God has assigned people to you. And everything we said before now is urgent to hear what I'm about to say. In 1 Corinthians 10, it says, now beseech ye, brethren, that by the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. And because we knew Pamela had to drop off, but I want to talk about people being assigned to you this year. I believe it. I didn't coin this phrase, but I believe it's true. When you find your tribe, it is then you will thrive. Maybe I said it a little bit differently, but I want you to be careful about protecting your space this year. Sometimes we assess, we're too easily accessible. Now, hear me well. Hear me very, very well. I'm not saying you need to be isolated and think you're all, inflated. No, I'm talking about elevated. Okay. There are opportunities that we made ourselves so available to people that we became common. God, I can show you the scripture. God says, do not call anything common that I've called holy. Okay. What I want to say to you is, ask yourself the question, is that something that I need to give myself to in the space of where God has taken me? Is that something that I need to be concentrated on, that I need to be involved in, or that I need to be attached to? And if I'm to attach to it, in what vein? Okay. We have a lot of members, thank God, at Georgia Christian Business Network. But I don't have to talk to each one of them every day. And most of them don't expect that. The opportunity is to be able to supply and to be a resource for them of GCBN. But that doesn't mean that every day I have to follow and talk and have a conversation with every member of GCBN. You've got to understand, and I've got another opportunity to share to support this, is sometimes know who you're called to and what you're called to do. Because, and Paul is saying here in this same passage, is is Christ divided in the 13th verse? He said, was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? And that's when they were trying to get in cliques and say, you know, I'm of Paul, or am I who crucified, you know, who was crucified? Paul was said, you know, Paul said, I wasn't crucified for you. And who baptized you? Why is that so essential? And you know, the thing that I'm trying to help you understand here is don't allow people to put demands on you that God has never intended for you to have placed upon you. And don't allow people to control you. I'm just going to say it just like that. And to be intimidated, what God has brought you to, it'll be God that takes you through. Learn how to hold people just a little bit looser. And what I mean by that, that your expectations for them are nothing, okay? But the opportunity is for us to understand that God has for you assigned people that are going to propel you forward in business and in life. And when we embrace those that God has assigned to us, it may require that you knock on a tall door, but expect that God's going to answer that door. It may require that you have a responsibility of getting outside your comfort zone to, as Crystal Parker taught us on yesterday, to show up. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. So the important thing for us to remember is that God has called us to love one another. I'm so excited that you guys have joined us for Wellness Wednesday today. I hope you're understanding that God has a plan and you're a part of that plan. And when we decreed and declared that 2023 is the year of the double, is so important that we understand that we've got to walk through these 6 characteristics. Angela, thank you for being on the call today. I'm so excited to hear how God is going to use you for our first Friday, our February noon nugget, and where this plays a part in our experience in the double as well. Understanding what joy is and the importance of joy and how that's going to play out. I forget exactly your title. Text it to me real quick. It's so, I put it in the chat. It's so important that you guys join us in the Facebook group on Friday for the noon nugget with Angela. I want you to know that each Friday, first Friday of each given month, is we've got a lineup of our GCBN members that are going to present themselves to you in a powerful way to encourage you with powerful nuggets to help facilitate your moving forward in business and in life. So the opportunity is for you to just go to our Facebook group and glean from there. And we'll be posting reminders and such like that. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm so excited about what God is doing in our network and Georgia Christian Business Network. Joy, God's aware of God's grace is how Angela has defined her title for Friday. So join us continuously. We're putting God back in business and we need your help. Visit our website at gcbnetwork.com. I'm so excited to see you win in business in his life. God has a plan, God has a plan and you are a part of it. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Thanks again for joining us. And go to our website. I wanted to tell you about Love at Work. It's a book, a chapter booklet that I wrote that is excerpted from my book, The Fruit of the Spirit at Work. But it is a deep dive into what love at work looks like. Whether you are in the marketplace or whether you're an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur, I believe it's a good read for you. It's only $20. I would love for you to go out there, order that book, and give me some feedback about it. We'll be talking about it some next week as well. Thanks for joining. Please share this post with other people in your network and invite them to join us. See you next week for Take Charge Tuesday platform. We have an outstanding February lineup. Please join us. Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye now.